All right. Welcome, Hannah, to the Unicorn Millionaire Podcast. So freaking
Hi.
excited to have you.
So excited to be talking to you today and to know you finally, and put a, actual face behind the icon that we see on Instagram.
Oh, thank you. Icon. I love it. We're going to talk about all about numbers. That's my
Love
kink.
it.
Talking about numbers, transparency, putting it all on the table.
Yep.
Could you please introduce yourself and what you do?
Totally. Yeah. Numbers could be my middle name as well. But I am Hannah Williams. I'm the CEO and founder of Salary Transparent Street. You may have seen me with this microphone asking people, and if you're listening to this podcast, you may have heard my voice asking people how much they make. That's literally my full time job. I ask people what they do for a living and how much they make. I started Salary Transparent Street in 2022, shortly after finding out that I was underpaid about $25,000 as a senior data analyst. I used to be a government contractor supporting government contracts as a data analyst and learned the hard way, what happens when you don't do market research, when you don't negotiate, when you don't know how much you're worth. So really the inspiration for Salary Transparent Street was very, relevant to my story, but the impact that the way it impacted me as well. Like I found out that I was underpaid and I realized like, dang, if it can happen to me, when I feel like I'm making a good amount of money, I'm well
Mhm.
respected, I have the dream job, like it could happen to anybody. And so I really just wanted to expose numbers. I wanted to hear people say, this is how much I make and this is why, and figure out, are you well compensated? How do we use your story to help others? So that's really the whole story for STS. And I've been doing it 3.5 years now, living the dream.
Living the dream. Yes.
Yeah.
I have been following you on TikTok and I loved your TikToks. And then I saw that you were here in Portland interviewing
Mhm.
people at the Capital One Cafe. And then I saw your presentation and I loved how transparent you were about how much money and where your money
Mhm.
comes from as a full-time content creator. So
Yeah.
diversifying income streams is huge. It's always been important to protect your ass, cover your ass. You cannot
Yeah.
depend on a person, a job, a government to take care of you.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that's something
I'm
huge.
glad that you came to the workshop too, because you're also a creator, and I was hoping that there were going to be people in the audience who have their own channel and that we can teach something too, because like I was hoping to teach others about data analytics and market research. Like now I feel like my focus has kind of shifted to helping other creators learn how to diversify their income streams and how to actually make money, because I got kind of tired of hearing the tech bros, the
Mhm.
bros on social media being like, "Oh yeah, like I made $1 million, making these videos." And it's like, I mean, I've made $1 million too, but I didn't make it like that, and
Mhm.
making $1 million in and of itself is just a crazy statement. And I feel like they were really lax about it and not
Yeah.
really being transparent. As funny as it always keeps carrying me, like the transparency that I just want to expose, what the real income is like. And so I was hoping we could, yeah, be transparent in that presentation about this is how much money we actually make from this and this and this. And this is what 3 million, views actually equals out to when you get paid from these channels, because it's really not as much as you would think.
Yeah, that was so useful. So let's break it down. Let's basically go
Yeah.
over the presentation again. So you
Yeah.
have multiple partnerships, collabs. So what is like the pie chart for you? How
Hmm.
much? So you say you make 1 million just
Hmm.
about a year, and what's the biggest percentage of that?
Yeah, so we made like our first year, like from April to December, like 600 some thousand, maybe 400,000. I forget the exact number. Our first official year, so the year of 2023, we made 1.3 or something. Then the
Dang.
next year, 2024, we made 1.6. And so we're like making, million after a million. And hopefully we'll make that again this year. We're on track.
For
But
sure.
yeah, like I definitely wanted to break out, what we call the 4 C's. Now I should have looked at my presentation again, but it's content, community, basically like the different ways that you can get money from your content. And really what it is there's the partnerships aspect, there's the channel aspect, and then there's the community support aspect. And a lot of people will talk about you can make money from merch, you can sell, digital guides and stuff. And for us, that was really not a stream of income that we saw any money from. We had started trying to sell merch, and we actually ended up owing money to the person that was working with us as a
Mm.
distributor for merch, because what they don't tell you is nowadays you have to have good merch. You can't just sell a cheap t-shirt for $60. So you're
No.
paying a higher premium, for good quality merchandise. And then what you get usually as a creator is you'll have these brands come up to you and be like, "Oh, we'll take care of all of it for you, but we're taking 50%." And when
Mm.
you already have these really high and low margins, and not a lot of flex there, it's when you owe that 50%, what happened to us is we actually ended up owing them money because everything was more expensive. And so I
Mm.
literally canceled our contract. I was like, this doesn't make sense to me. Like, we owe you money for the small amount of merch that we sold. So
Mhm.
that didn't work out for us. And then you also have to think about, what is the purpose of your channel? Does it make sense to sell something to your community? You can sell a guide, you can sell, a course, you can sell basically your knowledge. But for me, knowing that we make so much, and I'll get into this, from partnerships, and being very transparent about how much money we make from that, I felt so icky about asking my community to pay me to technically earn more. I know
Mhm.
that's probably not making me richer. I'm okay with that. Like, if
Yeah.
other people want to do that, that's totally fine. But for me, it just wasn't our ethos. It didn't feel aligned with, it just, I knew it was going to get a negative reaction, and I didn't feel good about it. So I chose not to take the dollars there. And we've never sold a course, never sold a guide. Everything that we've always offered is free. So if you go to our website, salarytransparency.com, going to plug, you can access our salary database, you can access our job board and all our resources for free. And the reason we do that is because we make so much from that partnership side, right?
Mhm.
So literally, it matters. It's different. Let me back up. It's different for every creator, but really, like, having a huge following across all social channels and also owning kind of a niche will really take you far. And I think that in finance specifically, there's a lot of companies right now that are looking to partner with more diverse thought leaders, not the typical, finance bro telling you to invest in crypto. And so I think we got really lucky about our timing, that our whole mission was to normalize transparency and make it more fun to talk about money. And so off the bat, I had wanted, like, and I think my biggest piece of advice here is, think about who you want to partner with, like, early on, because it's totally doable. And if you have that, mission and vision, and you pitch it to them, you might get somewhere. Because for me, when we started STS, I think within our first month, I was like, I want to work with Capital One Cafe. Like, they're
Mhm.
literally a place where you can get banking services, you can get help with your finances, but it's a cafe, and that felt so aligned to me. Let's make it an inviting place to talk about money. I reached out to them super early, and they were, thankfully, somebody had seen on the team, had seen our videos, and they were aligned. So do that outreach, because it comes with a lot of dollars. For us, our partnerships bring in about 96 to 97% of our revenue, and that has
Mm.
amounted to 1.6 million, in the last year. And the way that in our workshop, the way that I tried to position this is, you're not going to get, $100,000 from one video. But if you have a good relationship with a brand, I mean, somebody, Alex Earl might get $100,000 from a video, but we're not Alex Earl, right? The way that you position it to get more bang for your buck basically is, you do bundles, you do long-term partnerships. So when I work with brands, I try not to do the one-off video, because it kind of
Mhm.
feels flat. It feels like you're not really dedicated to the partnership. Do you even use the service if you're only working with them one time and only talk about them one time? So try to think about brands that you actually use, that you would consistently talk about naturally, not just as a product placement, and then work with those companies, because it's going to make the most sense for them to show up month after month. And then you can
Mhm.
pitch them like, hey, do you want to be like a loyal, like, part of our family, like, that shows up, that our community now thinks about you and I together? Yes, like, let's work together. And here are all the things that we can do. Like, we're not just going to do one video, we're going to do a podcast ad, we're going to do an Instagram story, we're going to do a newsletter ad. Like, there's all these
Mhm.
other things that you can offer to, inflate the package price, but ultimately be able to support yourself as a creator long term, because that's really the beauty of it, is that those long term partnerships support you as a creator. It's the reason
Mhm.
we haven't had to sell products, because we have that support. So all of that to say, partnerships are such a huge part of our income. And despite that, I would still advise that you diversify your income streams. So if it makes sense to sell merch, if it makes sense to sell a guide, definitely lean into that. But also make sure that you're cross posting across all these channels and monetizing wherever you can. It's not as much as you would think. Like we talked about that in our workshop, that
Yeah, it was
we're
not a lot.
on, yeah, we're in the TikTok Creator Fund. We don't make any money from Instagram. We only make money from
Mhm.
Facebook. And it's like, I just checked it the other day. We had a video that we just posted that had nearly 200,000 views on TikTok, and it's made us $100, like $110.
What?
Yeah. So I'm like, all right, like that's not gonna pay the bills.
That's cute.
You're right, that's cute. Like, thanks. So it's really not as much as you think. And I'm not calling anybody a liar. I think that a couple years ago, TikTok probably paid its creators a lot more than they do now.
Mhm.
But it's important to, that's another reason to have these other income streams, is because if that, funding gets pulled back on TikTok, like we've seen it happen, then you need to, recuperate somewhere else.
Yeah, I've gotten paid $5 from Meta. I was like, oh, cute. I can't even buy a
Thanks.
coffee with this in this economy,
Right?
but thanks.
In this economy, like that won't even cover coffee. It's crazy. Yeah. That's another thing. Like, I hope that in the future I can be a little bit more active on, is actually going toe to toe with these channels and demanding more for creators, because they wouldn't
Mhm.
have the platforms that they have without creators, but they show
Yeah.
us no respect.
Because I think there's so many people that don't know to negotiate and they just want to get paid through exposure.
Mm-hmm.
Same with like speaking engagements. There's people that are willing to speak for free. I mean, I'm speaking for free today, but it's for a nonprofit. I'm like, this is my cute volunteer gig. Gonna talk
Yes.
about high yield savings accounts for my queer hotties. Yes, yes, yes.
Yes. Yeah,
But
that's what I say, is like I'll take a limited number of unpaid, engagements, like speaking engagements
mhm,
or partnerships, even for nonprofits and charities that make sense. But like, I can't do it forever, and neither should you.
mhm. Yeah, and how we monetize looks different. I get $0 from partnerships. I mean, this year, 2 years ago, I got paid $5,000 for a 1 minute reel,
There you go.
which I was like, wow, should I say this? This seems like a lot. But then once I did it and realized the back and forth of the email
Yeah.
chain and having to redo the videos over and over again, then I
Yeah.
realized, okay, this is why I charged 5K. And I am so glad that that was my first paid reel ever. And I got paid that for it.
Yeah,
Um,
totally. And like the back and forth and the taxes, like
mhm.
5,000 after that comes out to maybe 2 to 3.
Yeah, which most people aren't aware of. They think that, oh, so you make a million a year, now you're millionaires, but about how much of that do you reinvest in the business or goes to taxes
Yeah.
and your retirement accounts? Because you obviously don't keep it all.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's another really good point, is that I put me and my husband on salary. So we've made over $2 million, over $3 million now, but I'm not a millionaire. My business is, but I'm
Hmm.
on salary. I make $150,000 a year. My husband makes $100,000 a year. We've fluctuated, like we've changed our salaries when we felt like we were taking too much and we wanted to reinvest and hire
Mm.
help. We've, taken more for distributions at the end of the year. If we're like, we had a good year, like we've got a solid profit, like let's
Hmm.
bank 100K. That is nice. Like that is when you start feeling the reward. But it's kind of like, it's never secure. It really is never ever secure. Everything's more expensive than you would think. Like I'm on salary, but I also have my 401k and health insurance, and that
Hmm.
takes a lot out too. So yeah, it's crazy. Everything is a little bit more expensive than you would think. And as a creator, the internet is not promised. Like you don't know if how long your niche is going to last. Like that's something that I remember at the end of the year when we did our, how much did we make this year? And our profit was like 600K. People were like, well, what are you doing with that? And I'm like, well, I'm keeping it in the business because I know that that's going to last me 6 months. That's not even going to last me a year, but I need
Hmm.
that much money to, if I made no money over the next 6 months from brand partnerships, no nothing, I have until June to figure it out,
Hmm.
and I think that that's so fleeting and people don't realize that.
Yeah, I want to go back to how much you and your husband pay yourself. I'm like, oh, you pay yourself more than your husband? Why
I
did you come up
do.
with that number?
I do, because I work harder. I not work harder. I have a different role,
Okay.
like my husband is primarily our cameraman. So, he works whenever we have to go film, but he's not doing interviews every single day. He's not doing the back and
Mm.
forth with brands. Like we're a very small team. I'm the
Hmm.
CEO, so I do all the emails back and forth with brands. If we don't have an agent, we have non-exclusive agreements with agents. So sometimes we have an agent's help, sometimes we don't. So most of the time, I'm doing a lot of the back and forth. I'm doing the finances. I'm managing that. Like there's so much more that I put on my plate than my husband does, and he's got the really good job where he just kind of shows up when
Nice.
needed to record, and he gets a good paycheck for it. Not saying he doesn't work hard as well. We both
Hmm.
do, but it definitely makes sense at the end of the day with the amount of hours worked and our responsibilities. I actually feel
Okay.
like we're both underpaid,
Right.
considering how much yeah, like I really wish I was making more, but I'm more invested in like making sure that I have longevity as a creator.
Yeah, that's huge. The long-term vision of being the CEO of the company means that you still pay yourself a low salary and live below
Mhm.
your means because you're investing in the business as a long-term plan that will fund
Exactly.
your retirement, or maybe one day you would sell it. Is that even a
Yeah,
possibility?
definitely. We're open to it with the right buyer. I think we're very
Hmm.
cautious about who that would be and making sure that we're very aligned in our values and our mission. I don't think I would ever want to step away from this, so that would be another consideration is making sure, we're not selling and then just running off with whatever the profit is there. I am This is my baby, and I'm so protective of it that
Hmm.
who knows what the future holds. But I want to keep doing this as long as I can. So, and I mean, I'm not going to complain about 150K. Like that's a solid amount. And with my husband, we're making 250 combined. Like we're in good shape.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that. I love that you are transparent with each other about your money and how much you pay yourself. And it's just neutral. It's just about the
Yeah.
numbers. It's not about, oh, well, I'm the man and I should make more. Da da da. No, it's just like, no, we're just talking numbers.
Yeah, and that's our pot at the end of the month. We combine our incomes and we've got solid pot to pull from. We still have separate accounts. He's got his fun money, I've got my fun money. We don't
Hmm.
check in with each other about like those little expenditures, but if it's like he wants to buy a new car to work on, then yeah, we're going to talk about it. We're going to figure it
Hmm.
out. But ultimately, like when you see it as a pot that you combine on, and what can you do when you combine that all that money together, you're a lot stronger than going it alone and trying to compete.
Yeah, for sure. So when you interview people, how often does the topic of diversifying income streams come up? Because I've seen your videos and you're like, how much do you make?
Hmm.
What's your role? So I want to
Hmm.
hear about the people that are like, I do this and this and this. Any surprises there?
So I've had some people, usually they'll tell me ahead of time, they're like, well, I'm a, quote unquote analyst, but I'm also, I also drive Lyft on the weekends and stuff. And
Hmm.
so I'll usually, if they ever give me a side hustle like that, I ask them to break down like how much are you making from this role and how much are you making from this role. Like specifically, one I can think of is we were in Georgetown, I think a couple months ago, and it was actually an overworked interview. He had two jobs, and he
Mm.
was off camera because he didn't want to be recognized for
Oh,
it.
dang.
Validly, because he's double dipping. I think that if you can do both jobs, you should be able to do however many jobs you want. But
Hmm.
I understand like there are ethical concerns there, so not my problem. But we protected their face anyway. But yeah, he worked for the government, and I know his side gig, he was actually a UX designer on the side, and I think he was like a data analyst or some type of software engineer, something in tech, in his full-time job. And yeah, he talked about he was making a solid salary from both, like six figures from both combined, makes a really good salary. And he talked about how he actually got the UX job to add more time because he was just kind of twiddling his thumbs in his 9 to 5. And I think that that's one thing that like I really hope we start becoming more honest about in the future, at least from a management perspective, that it's ridiculous in this day and age to expect people to actually be working 9 to 5, like just stuck to their computers or doing whatever. It's not realistic, it's not manageable, And, if we want to talk about how great AI is and how productive it makes us, it further, points to that fact that we don't need to be working 9 to 5. I think a 4-day work week is a solid thing that we should be really striving for in the future. But in that same vein, I think we should be more open to the possibility of people managing 2 full-time jobs, because it's possible. I remember, full honesty, I wasn't working 9 to 5 in my senior data analyst job. I mean, the one I found out I was underpaid in, absolutely. I was working crazy hours, which is why I felt like I was underpaid. But in the job that I was making right before I started STS, when I got the raise, I was making 115K. And there were some days that I was like, I have nothing to do today. Like, I'm just going to do something else. And I was working remote. So it was great. I got to get work done at the house. And that's why I think I felt like I had good work-life balance, because it just wasn't crazy like you would expect it to be.
And I think as I build wealth, being able to justify, yeah, it's okay to work overtime as long as you're aligned with it, or the source of your income matters too. I mean, I'm transparent about how I've never made more than 45K at the 9 to 5, and I still don't pay myself like more. I pay myself like 47K last year. But
Nice.
recently, okay, we need to edit the interview. You interviewed me about my side hustle where I talk about pet sitting, about how I pet sit to not pay rent. I just added another income stream this weekend, which is
I love it. Okay, so we'll have to get you to update us in the comments then.
yeah, I just did my first queer strip show.
Love
So I
it.
shook my ass for cash.
You know what? I have absolutely zero judgment. Do what you got to do, and that sounds so fun.
Yeah, and I got paid. I got paid maybe like 200 or 300 with tips, and it just felt so juicy. I think it reminded me of when after I quit my stockbroker job and I got my first payments for doing a money coaching call where it was like $30, and it just felt so enlightening and juicy of like, oh, I actually care about where my money comes from now. This money is way more fun to receive. It's not about the amount anymore. Now I start caring more about the source of it. So
yeah, I love it. Magic Charlie.
yes, Magic Charlie. Oh yeah, I bought my knee pads. I was watching my striptease videos. I interviewed a burlesque dancer in New York for tips on how to like interact with the audience. I was the Vanilla Prince, so I wore a cape and
that's a good name.
My crown. Yeah. And I had an audience member pull off the cape for me, and I was being all sexy. And I did not make a profit. I pretty much broke even because I bought my sexy leather harness was like $130.
But next time, because it's an investment in your new side gig.
Yes, that's what one of my friends told me. She was like, she was like, it's an investment in your future. And I said, I like my investments. You're right.
Exactly. And now you just have to keep shaking your ass for some cash and you'll start profiting.
Yeah, but I think now I have even more respect for performers. I always have, but now that I'm in it and realize how intentional you have to be about the outfit prep and rehearse. It was to J-Lo's Yo Quiero Dinero song.
Good one. Good one.
Yes, it was like 4 minutes long, and it just went by like that. When the adrenaline hits, I just black out, and I'm like, oh, I didn't give everybody a lap dance like I wanted to. Oh no, but next time.
That's how I am when I'm on the street. I black out as well. It is a performance. Like, that's so funny. I love that. Oh my gosh, you might have to connect me with that burlesque dancer, because I'd love to interview more people in that industry.
Oh yes, definitely can do that. Yeah, so it's just fun. I think it's good for my mental health. I think as a neurodivergent person, we get bored easily. So it's like exciting for us to try new things. And what's better than making money for trying new things? But I was also like, thank God I have my money together. Thank God I've maxed out my Roth IRA in January. I put the 7K in there. And I think making a little bit of money this weekend, but ended up breaking even, motivated me to just put $500 into my solo 401k.
There you go. Yeah, so you
Yeah.
just take care of like the boring adult stuff at the
Yeah.
beginning of the month, and that way the rest of the money is fun, whether you're gaining it or spending it. Like that's how you
Hmm.
do it. I love it. No, I kind of want to do the same thing too, where now I feel so, like I feel like my career, I'm very privileged to say that my money is set, like I've got this career figured out, hopefully, that I can do for another 6 years. That
Hmm.
I really want to also do the same thing where I have more fun with, how I earn money and just be more intentional about it.
Do you have like a retirement date or a goal? Because I asked that for me because I got people that are like, oh, help me retire by 58. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you're good because I quit my job with 80K net worth.
Yeah.
Okay. And now I've reached 200K off a very low salary because of how intentional I am. But I'm not
Yeah.
like a calculator person of, oh, coast FI by 60. So I want to hear
Right.
what your take is.
I think like when I was in my 9 to 5, I definitely had subscribed to the whole fire movement, and retire by 40. And I was being super intentional about, investing my money, my 401k match and all of that. But now like it's funny how I feel like in my first year doing STS, there was definitely that feeling like, okay, I can retire at like 35, and walk away from this and be good. But now that I find work that really fills my cup and it's more, advocacy related and I'm still able to monetize it, I actually don't see myself retiring. Like, even
Hmm.
now, I have so many ideas for things that I want to do. And I think that because I am less burnt out from a 9 to 5 standpoint, I'm burnt out as a creative, that's for sure. But
Hmm.
like, that's also why it makes sense for me to pursue other options to relieve some of this burnout and pressure that I put on myself with STS. That I'm just like looking forward to so many of these ideas that I have, and like just not even concerned about the money. Like I'm more so like I don't care if I make like no money from that, but I want to do it and try, and I think it would be
Hmm.
fun. And I think that that's what I really want to lean into. Like I don't think I'll ever retire, but I'd love to help launch other projects or other businesses that are more nonprofit and charity related, and just knowing what I know now, hopefully help them make money but not be worried about it.
Yeah, I think that's such a huge generational shift to make of like our parents or grandparents when they had pensions, the government somewhat
Yeah.
took care of them. They actually had Social Security to look forward to versus
We
us,
won't.
where it's a joke
Mhm.
and it's going to be
Yep.
even more of a joke, especially if you're self-employed and don't pay yourself a lot. That means you will get less in Social Security, which is
Yeah.
why you got to invest yourself. So I think it's really important to start changing what retirement will look like, because I think people have that outdated burnout idea of retirement, which like you said, I want to retire because I want to get out of this bitch. I'm not trying to work at this
Yeah.
desk. So fuck yeah, I want to
Yes.
retire. But now that you enjoy work and you're more
Hmm.
of work optional, I think that's going to be more of the vibe where we don't necessarily retire early to just sit on a beach or play golf all day. It's to have options, to not have to work, but to, if we do work, not really be concerned about how much we make, which you're already in that. So in a way, you're already kind of semi-retired, and like me too.
Semi-retired. Yes, exactly. Like you nailed it. Really, like not hating my job changed my view on retirement. And just,
Hmm.
you know, I hope anybody listening to this who feels that way, where they're like, God, I can't wait to get out of this work, this cubicle, so I can retire. Think about it. Is it that you don't like the work environment? Is it that you don't like the work, but you'd feel more fulfilled doing something else? Like for me, it wasn't about the work. It was about the work, in
Yeah.
in a way. It was the type of work that I was doing and finding something that filled my cup. Yeah, I could do this forever.
Yes, I love that. Because it's really sad. Sometimes I'll listen to people and ask them, what's your retirement plan? And they're like,
Mm.
oh, I'm going to work till I die, or death is my
Yeah.
retirement plan. And it's so sad. But I really think it's just because they don't, they're so busy being burnt out and hustling that they don't
Yeah.
know who they are.
Yes.
So they don't have a reason not to work because work is their identity, or they'd rather just be busy than deal with their
Yeah.
shit. Because as a business owner, you do have a lot of extra time, and
Yes.
the money wounds, the childhood wounds, all the trauma comes up. So that's why I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah.
thank God I'm clearing this shit now. So I'm not triggered at 65 when I feel rejected. I'm figuring this out now so that I can have more time to enjoy my work
Light.
optional life. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Oh my gosh, you're opening Pandora's box there. There's so
Mm.
much to digest there.
Yeah, well, this is awesome. I do want to ask you, what's been do you have a favorite interview? Or when I ask that
Mm.
question, does like that one interview come to mind for you that you'd like to share?
There's so many. Like each story really has its own like backstory that no one ever sees, but like the interactions that I have with people, because we don't film, and maybe we should, but we don't film when we ask people if we have permission to interview them or like what the pitch
Mm.
is. And sometimes that's when you get these really beautiful moments from people sharing, like, oh my gosh, yes, like I will totally share. Like I'm so open to pay transparency. We get stories like that, aside from when I start, what do you do? How much do you make? But one we just posted from right before we went to Portland, we were in Seattle and we filmed right outside the Seattle Storm. We're in the playoffs that night, so we interviewed some Storm fans. And there was a couple that we interviewed that just they just made my entire day, week, trip. Like it was phenomenal. They were both, the guy had been recently laid off from his company, making a lot more. He didn't disclose how much he had been making before, but
Mm.
now they both worked at Boeing. And I guess they had met at work, actually, like at Boeing at a different facility. So there was like
Mm.
a cute story there between them. But what was beautiful about the story was that he had his own thing where he had been laid off and his own aggravations, but she advocated for him. Like when he was talking about it, you could see his emotions take over, and she kind of took over from the logical standpoint. And she was like, that, yeah, they laid off all their highest earners, and, then management took a nice bonus. And so it was nice to see how she kind of took a little bit of the emotional brunt there. And then they flip flopped, where when I asked her, how much do you make? She talked about how she was actually underpaid. And I asked her why, and he jutted in before she could even answer, and he was like, men. And I was like, okay, this man is giving me all the green flags.
Yes.
And she was like, yeah, actually, like, I am underpaid because I'm a woman. Like, and I'm sure there's more to that backstory instead of just how high level it sounds. But he
Mhm.
literally advocated for her right back. And so it was really
Mm.
nice to see just this couple that were on the same, playing field, where you
Mhm.
could see that they've grown in their careers together. And I think a lot of us, we do take a lot of our identity with work, but it's so interesting how it helps bring us together as well. It causes these relationships we have with other people and these bonds.
Mhm.
That work can be a beautiful thing, but we all
Yeah.
deserve to be paid well for it at the same time.
Yes. And surround yourself with people who value you.
Yeah, and advocate for you,
Yeah.
because there's, as soon as she said, I'm underpaid because of men, there's going to be those people who say, "Ugh, you're being crazy." Like, no, there's so much more to it. And I would expect that reaction from a man, an eye roll. But the fact that he was like, no, that's 100% the reason, like, she deserves more, it was so refreshing to hear.
Yeah. He's like the patriarchy.
The patriarchy.
Like,
Yep.
what's
And
new?
it's true. I mean, the gender pay gap has widened for another year in a row now, and that's the
Mm.
opposite trend that we've been seeing. So, yeah, we just
Mhm.
need to do better to all stick up for one another, that we all deserve to be paid what we should be making. It's not us
Amen.
versus, yeah, it's not you versus me. It's, we shouldn't be pushing other people down. When we make more and we advocate for everyone, we all win.
There's endless amounts of money to go around. It's not
Yeah,
like if you get paid more, there's less money. There's always more money to go
there's
around.
always more money. And if they tell you there isn't, they're lying.
Oh,
Mhm. Oh, I can't do it.
it's the Mexican because I can do the R's thing. Okay, I can do the
And
R
I'm
roll.
European. I can't do it.
You can probably do the huh, the guttural
I can do the
sound. Okay, yeah. Oh, this is so good. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for being so transparent about how much you make and doing the Lord's work, interviewing people. Yeah, salary transparency for the people. Um,
Thanks.
yeah, where can people find you? And do you have any projects going on or going on tour soon?
Yeah, so you can find us on any social channel you want. My parents like don't have TikTok or Instagram, so I had to go everywhere. So we're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Threads, we're on Snapchat at Salary Transparent Street. And yeah, we've got new content coming out every day. We've got our Portland interviews coming up next, so go see Charlie's interview there. It'll probably be up. But yeah, we've got some exciting things in the works. I can't share anything yet, but we do have a major announcement coming out soon. So just stay tuned for that. And thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure to speak with you, Vanilla Prince.
Yes. Have an amazing day. Hope to have you on again.
Thanks, Charlie. Bye.
Bye.